Greetings in this new year, even though we are in a 2026. The timing of God is not dependent on our calendar, and it's certainly not our chronological time that affects what God is doing in the earth. So where we started speaking of what God is doing in terms of bringing us to an awareness and drawing our attention to the importance of discerning what is the harlot and what causes the harlot to become what she does, as opposed to the choice that we have to be the bride of Christ. This is not determined by time in a chronos form, and so we will just continue looking at this theme as we did last year. When we spoke, we were speaking of this woman in the wilderness and how she became the harlot, or how this woman becomes the bride. Today we're going to have a look at a slightly more in-depth look at the heart. What drives this woman towards Babylon? There's first the internal drawing, and I'll call it the internal Babylon, before it manifests in all the forms that it does. Now, we've been talking of the harlot and understanding that it is a corporate picture. It culminates in Revelation 17 when this woman appears as a corporate picture. But I'm also drawing your attention throughout to the personal implications of your heart and how your heart chooses either to be part of what is the harlot or that which is the bride. And so we'll do an overview of both of these. What is in your heart and the choices that you make really determine what you become. So we'll look at this passage in Revelation 17, and we see this woman is riding the beast. She is described as Israel, God's people that he chose, a covenant community that does these four things. And this is what causes her to be inclined towards Babylon. She fears the nations. She desires power and prestige and economic security. She's flattered by the nations, and gradually she compromises spiritually. So let's look at that. Instead of trusting God, she trusts kings. Isaiah 30 and Isaiah 31, we see this picture. Jeremiah 2 says she chooses to drink from the waters of the Nile. Hosea 7 verse 11 says she calls out to Egypt for help and then returns to Assyria. The fear that she has of the nations causes her to choose an alliance with these nations because she desires power and prestige. We see this in the book of Ezekiel 16 and chapter 23. And so she adorns herself to win the attention of powerful nations because she wants what they promise. And then the nations entice her with their wealth, with the ability to trade, with the influence that they have and she can have. And so she sells out that which she has. Her dependence on God, her provision from God, her protection from God, she trades that for what she can get from the kings of the earth. Now, she keeps her identity as the woman, but she adds their idols and their systems to her life. And so we see this same pattern as what happened with Israel is the pattern that we see this woman from Revelation 12, where she is hidden by God in the wilderness, to Revelation 17. From being hidden, protected, and dependent on God, where she's vulnerable, but she's safe because God protects her. Yes, she emerges in chapter 17 as this woman that is confident in herself. She's powerful. She sits on the beast. She's influencing the kings of the earth. And she's even persecuting the saints. So what happens in between this picture of Revelation 12 and Revelation 17? I'm going to go through a few things that happened to her. She felt the pressure of persecution, and she was growing tired of being dependent on God to protect her from this constant persecution. And so she's tempted, just like Jesus was tempted in the wilderness. I will give you all this if only you will worship me. And this woman decides, instead of dealing with this pressure of the persecution, she will align with the powers of the world. And then the dragon will stop pursuing her. The second thing that happens is she's seduced by the beast, who offers her security and control. And we see there's false prophets that are working signs, enticing her to say, we are powerful and we are also spiritual. You can join us, and if you can join us, then you can buy and sell. If you do not join us, well, other than being persecuted and pressured, you're not going to be able to trade. And so she chooses survival through compromise above depending on God for her protection. Rather than faith towards God, she pursues ways in which she can secure for herself protection, survival. It's the orphan mentality. And she thinks, I can partner with this system and I can influence it. It's safe for me to cooperate with the systems of this world. So it goes from fleeing from the systems of this world and persecution by it to working with the systems of this world, even being an agent of these systems. What lures her? Well, luxury. She likes the gold. She likes the jewelry. And we see her emerge clothed in gold and jewels and purple as she's been enriched by the merchants of the world. We see the same image in Ezekiel 16, where that is this desire for prosperity and luxury and comfort is really at the heart of how Babylon entices us. In Isaiah 47 verse 8, it says she's a lover of luxury. We see this same picture in Hosea chapter 2. She says to herself, I want more. I deserve more than just wilderness manna. Why must I depend on it when I am offered by these systems all my heart, my soul, my flesh desires? And so what starts off maybe as an economic seduction turns into a spiritual compromise, and she serves idols. She wants influence over nations. She wants to sit on the beast, these political structures that are represented by the beast, and hold the cup of intoxicating influence. She wants to be able to shape political and religious culture. In the beginning, she might even convince herself, these are noble pursuits. I'm going to use my position as the church in these systems. I'm going to influence the nations. I'm going to get political clout. I'm going to get the ability to shape the culture politically and religiously, because we are a religious woman. We are the church. But really, in her heart, she wants to be in control of her circumstances and then control the environment in which she is. Much like Judas, he also wanted to be in control of his destiny, trusting the Lord and the outcome of, man, they're looking at us skew and they wanting to come after us, and this is a tough environment. I'd rather be in control of the outcomes and compromise so that I can secure for myself my protection. Israel thinks it can control Rome. When Constantine gives them political power, when he gives them influence, Jerusalem thinking it can form alliances that will cause peace. Oh, we can control these situations. We can write our script to secure for ourselves protection and provision. And so this woman is enticed to partner with the beast to gain power and influence. But she becomes like the other nations. She becomes like Babylon. She becomes politically and spiritually polluted. Her identity that she had in the wilderness as the woman fades so that she can be powerful and influential. And why would the beast accept this woman? Well, there is a mutual benefit, and we spoke about this briefly before. The beast also wants global legitimacy. The beast also wants religious influence. He's seen how big the religious influence is in the nations of this world. Remember, she's riding upon the beast, but she's coming upon the waters, which are multitudes of people, nations. She's influencing multitudes of people, and the beast likes that religious influence. And the beast wants to use that to intoxicate, to make drunk the cultures. And so this woman offers a religious facade with her influence over the multitudes as she sits on many waters. She offers a facade of moral authority. After all, this is the church that is endorsing us. And with that, there's economic channels through which the systems of this world can now trade. So the woman is not dragged by the beast into this. She mounts the beast. She believes she can be in control. And she believes, as we see in Revelation 18 verse 7, that she is the queen. She doesn't need a husband. Revelations 18 verse 7. As much as she has glorified herself and lived in luxury, give her the same measure of torment and grief. In her heart she says, I sit as queen. I am not a widow and will never see grief. It's the heart of the matter. This internal Babylon that we're speaking about, we're talking about the heart. And what's in the heart will then flow over to the alliances and the compromises that we're willing to make. She thought she can control the beast. But we see in the end of the story, the beast only tolerates her till she outlives her usefulness. And then he strips her and devours her and burns her. And the entire fall of this woman is summarized in Hosea 2 verse 13 in this one prophetic line. God says, she forgot me. She stopped trusting in God, and she wanted to put her trust in other systems. And so, as we look at these corporate institutions of the church, the institution of the church and religious systems, I want us to look just at how this harlot is formed. It's obvious in the religious systems of the historical church. It's obvious in the Church of Rome. It's obvious in what became the Roman Catholic Church, how this harlot is displayed in forming alliances with the kings. And Sam's got into much detail even of the history of that. I want to look at some of these effects even in our more recent circles of the Pentecostal, the charismatic, and the evangelical systems of the church. Let's just read 2 verses again. Revelation 17, it's very important that you read through these thoroughly, but I'm just going to look at verse 2 and verse 4. Look at this woman. The kings of the earth were immoral with her, and those who dwell on the earth were intoxicated with the wine of her immorality. So she had influence over the nations, over the multitudes, and she intoxicates them with this wine of her immorality, of her compromise, of her harlotry with the kings of the earth. Verse 4, the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. She held in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. Now, how does this look today in the church systems? And then we get a look at, it might take a little bit of time today, but we get to look at how this looks in our individual hearts. When the church trades its prophetic voice for political access, we will endorse political candidates so that they'll give us access to the systems and the influence, so that they'll give us protection, so that they will fund our projects. We see leaders, church leaders and denomination leaders, very proud to dine with presidents and kings, to prove to everyone that sees them how legitimate they are. They are important religious figures in the church. We see this as the same pattern as what happened in the Old Testament when Israel runs to Egypt and Assyria. When these leaders and these leadership structures in these church systems and the pastors themselves seek power through the state, when that happens, you know the harlot is riding again. When she wants to be dressed in luxury and drunk with commercial power and the connections that she can make through these interactions and relationships that she's forging with the merchants of the earth. And we see today in these church systems how these religious leaders, these pastors, they live like cultural royalty. They market their conferences like the world does their entertainment brands. They build ministries to scale revenue. We have a scalable model. We can reproduce this and bring in more money and more money. It's not about making disciples. It's not about bringing sons to maturity. It's about making money. It's about how can we build this thing to be a big brand. And this prosperity gospel that our people have been swallowing for the last couple of decades has been making the same promise that Babylon makes. Promises wealth, status, comfort, exalt yourself. It's about how God can make you be good, look good, live your best life now. This is pure harlotry, exactly what Babylon offers. And so the church is run like a corporate business runs. Same models as the corporate business. How do we build financial empires? And we measure God's favor by our financial success. We are so blessed. Look how much we have and look how much we've accumulated. This is evident of God's favor. This is when the woman exchanges the glory of God for the gold of the kings of the earth. In our society, this woman seeks to entice with entertainment. It seeks to be a celebrity culture. It uses technology and other systems and social media platforms to be systems of influence. We want to influence. But the point of influence, you're always trading on the platform that God has already said He's given the beast authority in these systems of propaganda. But yet these church systems will try and use that to the best of their ability to make their name great. There's a drive to entertain the people so that we can remain relevant. We build brands and platforms to have influence. This is not about building a community of believers. It's not about the family of God. It's not about the household of God. It's about how we can make a name for themselves. You're saying, Peter, you're very critical. Well, I was there. I lived that. I did that. I was caught up in that. I went to conferences in America to learn how to draw the people in by giving them what they want to hear and how to be seeker sensitive. Well, they are not seekers of the truth. They are seekers of things that will tickle their ears. And there's a difference. When people are seeking God and they're seeking the truth, then you can speak the truth in love. But when they're seeking those who will tickle their ears and make them feel good and comfortable, then you are pandering to the harlot and what Babylon offers. I've been there. I've seen how we get enticed to manufacture experiences and create good vibes. And these systems have produced pastors that are celebrities. They're untouchable. No one can come near them. No one has access to them. They walk on high clouds with bodyguards and cars that people carry their Bibles to and protect them from any. No one must come near them because they're so busy and they're so important. But yet, what they want to do is attract people to make money. They shape their music. They call it worship, but it's not worship. We've already spoken about that's not worship. To attract crowds. It is what it is. It's entertainment and it's trying to build a brand. This woman holds a cup of intoxicating influence. And in church, it's also manipulation. It's authoritarian leadership where she can control. They call it submission, but it's coercion that's disguised under this term, you must just submit, because otherwise you're rebellious, and otherwise you cursed. And they use terms like touch not the Lord's anointed as a shield to abuse people and not hold any of these people accountable. This is the spirit of Babylon. It's a spirit of control. And let's move on, even to the point of the blood of the saints. Yes, we don't see people, saints, being killed physically, but there is a murdering, a killing of hearts in this persecution of the saints. They marginalize, they shame, they silence you if you want to ask questions, if you want to inquire as to how this aligns with the Word of God. What are the accountabilities within these structures? And those who have been abused in these systems are silenced to protect the ministry. People, I've been there, I've seen it. I know of ministries, I can name you names and places of ministries very close associated to us, where people have been abused by these leaders, and they've been shipped off, they've been silenced, they've been made to look like they are the one that is the perpetrator, and it's swept under the carpet to protect the ministry. And you know, this one case that I was very much involved in, that pastor went on, even though they disgraced this girl and shipped her off to England, he went on. Later on, he was caught out and exposed. But it was a long time of cover-up and abuse to protect the ministry. And if you don't agree with these leadership structures, you get called divisive, you're bringing division, or you're rebellious. And the leaders will crush the faithful under this spiritual weight of submit to those in authority. And in this way, the harlot is drunk with the blood of the saints, spiritually. It doesn't have to be that she's martyring them and killing them physically. Because if she can destroy their testimony, discredit them, that's what this harlot does. Now, not all the churches like this. I'm painting a picture that it's not nice to see, but it's not all like that. Those who follow the Lamb, Revelation 14 verse 4, those are not defiled by the lure of money or brands or power or influence. They are a remnant. Revelations 14:4. These are the ones who have not been defiled with a woman, for they are virgins. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes, and they have been redeemed from among men as first fruits to God and to the Lamb. Now, I know we've gone on quite long, but I want to look at how the individual can be affected. We've looked at the church systems, but any believer can drift and be enticed. How? If you believe the lie that the beast will give me what God has not. If in your heart you start longing for the things of Babylon, if there's a spirit of self-exaltation, so that you will no longer want to depend on God and trust in God, but try and make a way for yourself. Seek ways to secure for yourself instead of trusting God. These things are first born in the heart before they manifest it in your selling out as a harlot. When you want to stop depending on God and find ways to make your own plans, and you make subtle agreements with the flesh to say, well, no one needs to know, or I deserve this, or I can handle this. That's how the wine of Babylon is first sipped. Not in open rebellion, but in permission. Surely this is not so bad, but others are doing it. It's not who you say then you worship, but who you align with in these times of uncertainty and pressure? What do you run to secure for yourself? In the 3.5, as we've spoken about last time. One group is purified and one group becomes the harlot. When what God is meaning to produce in you is dependence on Him, not comfort. But you seeking what it looks good. This is how Eve was seduced. It looks good to eat. It'll make you wise. It'll make you like God. So then we find a trust transfer. There's a transfer of trust from trust towards God to trust towards what the systems of this world can do for you. That's Babylon. Instead of trusting God's timing, His voice, His provision, His affirmation over you, your heart wants to trust money and gifts, your gifts and what your gifts can accomplish for you, and approval of people and influence that you can have. And Jesus warns us against this in Revelation 2 verse 4. Even for the church of Ephesus. He says, I have this against you, you have abandoned your first love. You've been enticed to love other things. When the bride says, come Lord Jesus, the harlot says, I sit as queen. I don't need a husband. I rule. So Babylon is not just the beast. It's not just a world system. It is what starts in your heart as untamed impulses that are in fallen humanity. When these desires, the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, the pride of life, become the engine that drives even a believer to be enticed to begin to ride the beast like the harlot, to open doors for yourself through compromise. Well, God didn't do it quick enough, so I'm going to make a plan. These are the cracks through which Babylon enters. Let's look at them. 8 cracks, if we can look at them. Untended desires. When each one, according to James 1 verse 14, is tempted by his own evil desires, he is lured away and enticed. So, your own desires that you're not checking in your heart. Secondly, you're offended. You're easily offended by what has happened, your circumstances, even what God has allowed, and it hardens your heart and blinds your eyes, not to see now how the enemy will use that. Thirdly, when there's hidden sin, that attracts Babylon. It's the secrets in the dark that rots the soul. They won't know, I deserve this, it's okay. Fourth, there's spiritual pride. I deserve this. I'm special. I don't need to be held accountable. I'm above accountability. We see this in many of those pastors and leaders, and then pride comes before the fall. And with that, the fifth one, misused giftings. You use your gifts or your charismatic ability or your so-called anointing to gain attention, to make money, to gain influence, to have control. This is spiritual prostitution. That which God has given you as a gift, you use to go after other lovers and attract them. And so then with that is the sixth one, misplaced love. You start loving other things more than loving Him. And that becomes Babylon's foothold in your life. The things that, the lust of the eye, I start loving those things. And then, seventh, the compromise for opportunities. Opportunities to influence, opportunities to open doors, opportunities to make this happen for myself, so you're willing to compromise. And then lastly, eighthly, you tolerate Jezebel. You allow the seduction. You allow the manipulation. And out of all of this, God says, come out of her. Return to your first love. Be refined by fire. Revelations 3 verse 18. Be quick to repent. Follow the Lamb wherever he goes. This is the bride's posture. This is how yielded to God and faith towards him and trusting him in his timing, in his provision, in his love for you, that will break Babylon's power. Now, I know we've covered a lot, but I want you to understand that the harlot doesn't just become the harlot overnight. She allows her heart to be seduced. And just as it happens in systems, as I pointed out to you, historical church systems, traditional church systems, but even in our recent Pentecostal, charismatic, and evangelical systems, your heart allows you, the things your heart desires and how we're going to make it happen, allows you to be enticed by Babylon. So too, as an individual, you can allow your heart to be enticed, just as Eve was in the beginning. Remember the posture of the bride. Follow the Lamb. Wherever he is, that's where you go. Revelations 14 verse 4. Where he goes, you follow. And he will direct your steps. And he will be glorified. Until next time, God bless.